Hello carnivore hunters, it's Doug. I am back. Wanted to share with you guys my Carne Asada recipe. What I am starting out with here is a flank steak. It is a fairly lean piece of meat and it can be actually end up being kind of tough. So I want to take a few steps to make sure that it gets nice and tender. First thing I'm going to do is start out with this tenderizer here. This is just one. I got it off of Amazon. Just has those little blades in there. But first thing I do is just kind of come through and tenderize or get this through kind of the whole thing. And I do this on both sides of the meat here. So we want to make sure both sides get done. And this one actually has a little bit more fat than the ones I normally get. I'm kind of excited about that. Probably have a lot better flavor when we're done than the super lean ones. So, all right, so I have that nice and tenderized. Now, I actually start with a little bit of lime juice. I know this is not strictly carnivore, but we're not even using a ton of this. And, you know, in authentic carne asada, they actually marinate it in lime juice. So I'm just pouring a little bit over the top there, kind of rubbing it in. A little bit, make sure we get on some over everything. And then I'm going to take some of my kosher salt and just kind of sprinkle this all over. You want to be pretty generous with the salt, but there is some salt in the carne asada seasoning that I'm going to use here as well. So it's kind of a delicate balance. You know, play with it, find the levels that you like. I actually do kind of like stuff pretty salty, so I did add a little bit more than probably most people would. Next thing I'm going to use, this is the El Mexicano carne asada seasoning. I absolutely love this stuff. Yes, it does actually have a little bit of sugar in it. If any of you have another brand out there of carne asada seasoning that doesn't have the sugar and still tastes as good as this, I'm definitely open to try it. But for now, we're going to continue to use my old standby. And it's just a generous, liberal coating all over it. And then kind of pat it in. Make sure it kind of sticks in there, and then we're going to flip it over and do the same thing on the other side. You want to get all of that flavor all over. Don't want to miss out on anything. All right. All right, I've got this pretty well coated here. I'm just going to kind of pat that in. Next thing we're going to do, actually, I like to let this sit at least overnight, but preferably actually 2 nights. That's when I find you get the most flavor. That salt's going to suck all the juices out of the meat, and then when the meat sucks all that back in, you're going to get the flavoring from not only the salt, but the lime juice and the carne asada seasoning. It's going to make it fantastic. So when you see me next, we're going to be throwing this on the grill and finishing her up. See you soon. Hello carnivore hunters, we're back. It's been about 48 hours since I first seasoned our carne asada. Actually, I have 2 flank steaks here. What I like to do first is get my propane grill going ripping hot, just as hot as it can possibly go, just to get a good sear on both sides. I'm just going to lay it on both sides for about 90 seconds a piece, get a nice good sear started, and then we're going to move it over to the smoker. And I have this, which I have warming up right now. It's going at about 300 degrees. And then we'll let it sit on the smoker until the internal temperature gets up to about 160. So. Okay, carnivore hunters, there are the flank steaks on the grill right now, getting ready to go. You can see I have the probe in there. Again, did set that probe for 160 degrees, which may sound like a lot, especially for those of you that like a medium rare. The thing is with flank steaks though, we're still going to have quite a bit of pink in there on the inside. So best to cook these kind of low and slow, and we'll be right back and I'll show you how we slice these babies up. Hello carnivore hunters, we're back. So my flank steak has now come up to 160 degrees. I know what a lot of you are thinking, that's way too high. But for a flank steak, it's not too bad. My wife does like her meats well done, and this is one of the few meats I can take up to that temperature and actually still enjoy it myself. So, but hey, if you want to cook it for less and to a lower temperature, by all means, you do you. So there's a couple of things before we go to cut this here. First of all, we're letting it rest for about 10 minutes, make sure all those juices get redistributed through there. We've done a couple of things to make sure that this stays as tender as possible, because flank steak can be pretty chewy. As you saw earlier, we did the needle tenderizer. Also, the acid in the lime juice as well as the salt is going to help soften up some of those fibers in there. And then when I go in to cut this, you're going to see I'm going to cut it against the grain, but also at a 45-degree angle. That way we get shorter fibers in there, going to help with that extra kind of chewy factor. All right, so let's go ahead and get one of these out here. And again, with these, it's a little easier to see before you cook it, but the grains run along this way. So I am just going to hold that down and get a good 45-degree angle on that. And as you can see, even though we went up to 160, there's still a good amount of pink in there. All right. So that's it. I'm going to cut up the rest of this. And then for myself, I'm just going to have the meat in a bowl with maybe a little bit of cheese and maybe even a little bit of sour cream. But obviously, if you have ketovores in your house, they can add some pico de gallo is amazing with this, guacamole, sour cream, all that good stuff. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.